Mike, turn your games down.
Reboot episode 280 of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's running in tall grass with me tonight?
Kendall.
Welcome. Been a bit.
Yes. Although you were over in my neck of the woods talking Pokemon on Beyond Bulbasaur, a very special episode relative in March.
Because the last time we did one of these, it's been a while. I can't even remember when we did Crystal, but it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
And who else is with me tonight?
And you also have Kyle, also known as Chibi UFO, and I'm here to talk about some Pokemon.
Thank you. And we are here to talk about Pokemon Platinum, developed by Game Freak, published by the Pokemon Company, Nintendo, and came out for Nintendo DS in 2009 in North America. And I have been wanting to get this game on the show for a few years. Whenever Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the remakes came out, that was the year I was going to do it, but then I didn't because nobody wanted to cover it with me, and then finally I'm like, fucking doing Platinum. Platinum has been one of those that always skipped by me because I didn't have a DS. I played it on a tablet where I was emulating it at work because I had a lot of dead downtime at my old job. And then I would play it, but then I ended up putting on ROM hacks and deleted my save. And then I said, well, we're done. And I've been wanting to go back and finish the game because I was upset at myself for doing that, but there was no way I was going to start over again after I was near the Elite Four when I fucked up. Kendall, what is your history with this game?
So Gen 4 is the generation that I have put the least time into. My Pokemon history is a very well documented. I do have a podcast called Beyond Bulbasaur where we talk about Pokemon, and I was basically I was a Gen 1 guy. I was ashamed. I was the age where you're ashamed to play Gen 2, but you still played Gen 2. Then I didn't play 3 and 4, when they were relevant, and then got back into things with Black version Gen 5. At various times I've gone back and played everything. Every generation except for 7, I've played all the way through. I've rolled credits on at least once. Gen 7 is terrible, but for specifically for Gen 4, I had only played through Pearl just when I was kind of working my way back. Gen 3, I've obviously played through all the different games various times, and then also with the remakes. But Gen 4 is the one that I have kind of the least. I didn't play it when it came out, and I also just kind of sort of dabbled in it. I played through Pearl version once, and then this is the first time I've touched it since then. Yeah.
Nice. See, I could help you cross off something that was on your list.
Yeah, definitely. I barely even actually knew what Platinum was, because it's confusing because all the Gen 4 stuff is metal or minerals or whatever. And so I wasn't sure if Platinum was a twist on Diamond and Pearl or if it was a twist on Gold and Silver.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Because
that would have made a bit more sense. Gold, Silver, Platinum.
Yeah.
And then Crystal.
And Gold and Silver had the remakes in Gen 4.
Yeah. Which is Soul Silver and Heart Gold, which we will talk about someday.
Also, until this time around, the other reason that I never played Platinum is I was able to get Pearl version back in the day for $20 or something, but
steal.
But now these games are a bajillion dollars to get the original hardware, and I had not found a good DS emulator until this time around.
I played this on legit hardware, but not a legit copy. I have a flash cart that I bought from
Please don't tell on yourself.
Oh,
I totally have I own a legit copy of the game. I just emulated it.
I own a legit copy of Pearl, actually. I don't know how or why I have it, but I do have a copy of Pearl. And Kyle, what's your history with this game?
This game is an interesting history for me because this is the game that actually got me back into Pokemon. I'm kind of in an interesting space with Pokemon as it goes because I was born in 1990, and when Pokemon came out and when it debuted in the kind of late summer, autumn era of 1998, I was 8 years old, so I was kind of prime age to get into something like Pokemon. So I did, and I loved Pokemon. I was obsessed with it. I loved it a whole bunch. I loved the video games. I loved the anime, the cartoon, I loved all sorts of stuff. I had a bunch of plushies. I was obsessed. So I loved Gen 1. I had a lot of fun with it. I had fun with Gen 2, played a lot of that too. Gen 3, at the time, I was about, I think, 12, 13 games came out, and I thought it was okay, but I don't know, something felt just kind of in. I was like, I don't know if I'm, like, really into this. And, like, I still like a lot about Pokemon, and, like, I still had fun, but I don't know, something just felt a little off. And then, like, a couple of years later, I was about 18 when Pokemon Platinum came out, and I played that, and I was like, oh, holy shit, oh, I love Pokemon again. Like, oh, like, I really love Pokemon. Like, I still do. And, like, Platinum is what got me back into the series.
Okay, I was out, unfortunately, because I was an adult, I thought to myself, and, like, I just didn't touch these. Like, I know I bought Pearl when it came out, because I bought it for my girlfriend at the time, which I don't think that is the copy that I have behind me. I think she took it when she left me years and years ago.
Oh, no.
That's fine. It was her gift. No, I thought it was fine. It's hilarious that I years later end up with another copy of Pokemon Pearl, and I have no idea how it got here. Pretty sure it came with a collection when I bought, because I bought a 3DS off a buddy of mine, and he's like, "Here, have all these games. I don't care." And I'm like, "Cool." I think that came with it. But no, I mean, that Pokemon, one of those things that, a lot of people, I feel like we went through our phases where you have that one gen you start with, and then you fall off, and then you get back into it at some point. So. I mean, playing this on legit hardware was different, because every other episode we've done so far for this, I always emulate it. I always play in time 2 speed, and I know Kendall was probably like, "You're not getting the true experience."
No. No, I am not. I am in no way a purist. I think any way that you play Pokemon is the right way to play. I think that if you're gonna complain about, like when where I take issue is, like, you play, and I mean, maybe on the previous episodes did play on legit hardware.
I think you made a comment because I couldn't hear the music.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I don't listen to the music when I play Pokemon.
I didn't either. Even on, like, legit copy, I just was like, "Oh God, this is slow."
But I think
I do listen to the music, but I can get that. Like, I can totally get that.
So I would say, this is where I'm at when it comes to playing games like as intended versus not as intended. It is, if you play a game and you enjoy it playing, with, muted and sped up and auto battled and God mode and all the things, like, if you enjoy it, that's great. But if you play a game and you mess with it, and then you're, like, if you speed it up and then you're complaining that the game only took 5 hours, or if you're playing God mode and you feel like the combat left some to be desired, well,
okay,
then
that is a fair statement.
Like, or if it's a game that's known for its soundtrack, like, something like there's a game that nobody's heard of. It's about, like, a tale that's beneath something, and you played that on mute, then, that's where, especially if it didn't land for you. Like, it's like, maybe the reason that it didn't, maybe you're the problem, I guess, is
I
thing.
Feel like it's come up on our old conversations, but I didn't go back and listen, obviously. So that's why I was just curious. I'm sure that I gave you guys, but that was the thing, is you got, I think at least one of the ones that I was on before, I'm sure that I gave you a hard time, and it was either tongue in cheek, or it was, like I said, because you were negative on the game, and I felt like you hadn't played the game. No, that's fair. I can't remember, because it's like we do one of these like maybe once a year, if that. I think.
Yeah, it's been a while.
This is not my favorite series to go back to anymore. I mean, even though, like, it's good to, like, these are games that I feel I need to experience, because I call myself a gamer and I like RPGs. Like, this was something that's always been on my list just to experience, and playing it on legit hardware gave me it was interesting. The only issue I had wasn't the game's fault. It was my freaking DS's fault, where if you close the DS that I use and you reopen it, there's a 10% chance your save is going to be you have to restart your whole system. And that's fine. It sucks, but as long as you know that, you could work around it. And that's what I did, and I got the hang of it. But it was annoying. But again, that's not the game's fault. That's my situation, which, again, from what I heard, should not be how a flash cart works. So
I do think, now, you did say something in previous episodes that I didn't understand, not having done, because even though I've done played a lot of Pokemon and talked a lot of Pokemon on podcasts. I haven't specifically reviewed. I hadn't at that point specifically reviewed multiple Pokemon games. And you did say sometimes it's difficult to talk about a specific Pokemon game.
Yeah,
and I do think that's true. And it's that double-edged sword of the fact that they've made this game. There's 9 generations, each of which has 2 to 5 entries that are all the same game. So we have to fixate on the little differences, and then there's also like the individual experiences, and then that on top of the nature of reviewing video games on a podcast when you have deadlines. Just like sort of like for me, Pokemon is when I play these Pokemon games, it's the game that I'm playing it between phone calls at work or while I'm as a second screen experience, and just sort of dipping in and dipping out, sort of as a way to relax. So I'm not, super analyzing things.
Yeah, no, that's very fair of Pokemon games. Like when I played most of this game, it was in between other stuff. I have a movie on that I'm watching. Okay, I'll just sit here and just grind, because I did a ton of grinding in this game. And it was slow and painful, but you put on a good podcast. I do like it. I know I said it's painful, but I honestly did like it because I'm one of those people.
It's the same. Yeah, I mean, no, I totally hear you.
Kyle, are you like that? How do you feel about grinding?
No, I get that. I can be. I'm actually pretty okay with grinding. Like, I feel like when I was younger, I was really impatient, but now as like an adult, it's weird. Now as an adult, I'm kind of different. I actually really don't mind at all for grinding. Like, I'll listen to the music for a little bit as I grind, like the game music, and then after, but it's like, okay, well, I think now that I've looped it a couple of times, I think I'll listen to like a podcast or like something like that, or like an audiobook or something, like that. I actually really didn't mind the grinding so much in this. In fact, I have a little surprise for y'all.
Sure.
With this game. So I played Pokemon Platinum. So here's actually the thing. I've actually beaten this game before. In fact, I was actually wrong with how old I was for when I first played this game. I actually wasn't 18. I was 19, because this came out in late March of 2009. I had just turned 19. So I have actually beaten Pokemon Platinum before in the past, quite a while ago. I'm 34 now, so yeah, it's been quite a bit. So I've beaten Pokemon Platinum before, and then now this was my second kind of like full playthrough. I wasn't able to actually beat it in time, but I was playing this while also playing with the Shiny Pearl and the latest remakes for Pearl and Diamond on the Nintendo Switch, because I wanted to see like the differences of like, okay, what type of like, has there been any quality of life improvements? What type of differences are there between Platinum and this and these remakes for the Switch? And I actually started playing those both at the same time. Like, I would play a little bit of Platinum, and then I'd play a little bit of the Diamond and Pearl remake. And it was so interesting to kind of go back and forth. It was quite the experience. And yeah. Though, to actually answer the question, yeah, I don't know. I actually didn't really mind the grinding so much. I made time for it. Like, I wouldn't try to exert myself too much. It just, like, I'd be like, you know what, I'm down for some grinding. Let me start up the game, and then I'm just gonna, play a little bit. I'm gonna play for a little while, and then, like, if the music gets a little tiring to me, I'll put on, like, a podcast or something, or an audiobook. So, yeah, I didn't mind it so much.
I mean, I know that this game has team battles, which were added, if I remember correctly, Gen 3, right? When team battles were added?
Team battles were added.
Okay.
And I thought it was Crystal. I thought you added it. I thought it was added.
Maybe it was Crystal. I can't remember. But like, one thing that I do want to bring up about this game is, as I was playing it, Team Galactic is really fucking evil.
Yeah, they are.
They are more evil than, like, I feel like majority of the other ones that you fought.
So that's interesting you bring up Team Galactic, because I thought, I guess technically they're trying to like destroy the world or whatever, but I thought they were one of the least inspired bad guy teams of all. Like, I thought they were just kind of generic. Yeah, I guess they're trying to take over the world or destroy the world, or what is it? They're trying to
Well,
destroy the world to remake it in their image or
The
something.
leader is trying to summon the Pokemon Granta to come out and destroy the world so he can recreate it in his image.
Okay.
They don't know that from what
Okay.
it is. He's going behind their back, but that's what he's
Okay.
up to. And it's kind of like when you find it out, I'm like, this is not what I expected. Like normally it's just like, like with Team Rocket, they're like, oh, we're just bad. We're, going to make money. We're gangsters. I think Gold and Silver is also Team Rocket, right?
Yeah, let me see if I can name them all because this is a fun exercise. Okay. So Gold and Silver it was Team Rocket wondering where Giovanni is. And then Ruby Sapphire was Team Aqua and Team Magma, I think.
Yes.
That one of them wanted the world to be covered in magma and the other one wanted to be the thing.
Yeah,
and then,
which makes no sense, but yes.
Yeah, and then we had Gen 4 Team, what was it, Team Galactic?
Yeah, and I think it's just Team Galactic. I don't think we had a different team if you
I think you're right. And then Gen 5 is, I believe, Team Plasma, which is the PETA. That's my favorite guy, guys. I think that's like, because that's when Pokemon kind of figured out that Pokemon is cockfighting. Like I think when they hit it there, and then actually PETA made a game where you play as Team Plasma. Like I think it was just like a crappy Flash game or something on their website, like they do, like where they have the one where you're playing as the Tanuki suit, but like it's like graphic and stuff because it's their PETA. But it was like, I like that. I love them because they're. And then Gen 6, I don't remember except for they were one with I don't remember the name of them, but they had a charismatic leader who was the lead villain. And I don't remember the names of any of the other ones. Gen 7, again, I bounced off of really quick because it's so terrible. Gen 8, they were overzealous soccer fans. And then Gen 9 was really interesting because it was the like sort of like outcast like kids from the school. And that was, I don't know, I liked Gen 9 a lot.
Okay. This game follows the same, formula of every single Pokemon game. You get your 8 badges, you travel across a new region. I don't know what this region is supposed to be based on. I didn't look that up before talking.
I think that the first 4, I want to say the first 4 were different regions of Japan.
Okay.
And then Gen 5 is where we start basing on other places when it's based on America. Okay.
I was just curious because
I think I'll confirm while you keep talking.
This is Sinnoh, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a decent Pokemon game. One thing I tried to do is I unfortunately, I know what Pokemon I want. Like, I know I need a fire type, a grass type, a water type. Like, I was very much just making my team as it goes, but I was trying to play this game better, where there have been other playthroughs where my dumbass wouldn't level up other Pokemon enough, and I would pay the price. This time, I always try to keep everybody around the same level. So I wouldn't be where I would have like one overpowered Pokemon, everybody else is weak and can't do anything. And I also I try to mix it up and use new Pokemon from the gen and also some old ones. But I should say we should start with what starters did we pick? I went with Torterra. What did you pick, Kendall?
The guy that eventually turns into Infernape.
Okay, you went with Chimchar. I don't know the name of the one.
By the way, Japanese island of Hokkaido is what Sinnoh is based on.
Cool. All right. And Kyle, who did you start with?
Pokemon Platinum, I started with Piplup. And for my Pearl and Diamond remake for the Switch, I started with Chimchar because I love Chimchar. He's a little sweetie pie.
I picked Turtwig. That's his name. I didn't like him. I regretted my decision later on where I'm like, I should have probably went with fucking the water one.
Well, I feel like grass types suck in this version.
There's
just, I think because Team Galactic has a lot of fire moves and a lot of psychic moves, and those are like you fight a lot of them.
Right, he got his ass handed to him multiple times. So yes,
because I felt like Infernape was like well positioned because there were a lot of like ice stuff. There was a lot of ice stuff and a lot of dark stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
I felt like he was really well positioned. Although I wasn't a fan. I don't like bad mouthing the starters because they all kind of are what they are, and they usually
Usually
But
good.
I wasn't. Yeah, I was not I wasn't a fan. I don't. Again, I Gen 4 is not one that I'm an expert on, and I just was kind of underwhelmed by. He was just like a little monkey, and he grew to be a big monkey. And I don't know what I was expecting, but I feel like usually when you get to that final form, at least in the last few generations, like they look cool.
I mean,
They'll
I
do
didn't
something.
mind what Torterra or Turtwig evolves into Torterra as a giant turtle.
Yeah,
I didn't mind it. It was just my issue was he was fighting a few rock Pokemon or something or water Pokemon where he should have the advantage, and they would be faster than him, and they would hit him with like a lightning type move or something, and just kill his ass. And I'm just like, or not lightning, sorry, like just fire move,
Like
something that would
fire
murder
or
him.
flying or psychic. Yeah.
And I was just like, that is annoying.
Yeah, I think around Gen 4, they really start doing the thing where they teach, where at least like the gym leaders and stuff will teach the weakness move. So like if you have a fire Pokemon, then they might know a flying move just because to watch out for grass or something like that.
I feel like I saw that a lot in this game. There were multiple people I was fighting that had moves that could massacre me, and that was a problem. Like a lot of Pokemon, especially the Elite Four, for example, a lot of them will have a move that is opposite, that would be weak against whatever they're weak against. It's gonna destroy the opponent. Like they have, I know like one of them had like a Thunder Punch I didn't expect, like just stuff like that murdered me when I got there, and I saw that a lot throughout this game where types, like if I didn't go first, there were gonna be some trouble. You need a fast Pokemon. I mean, I had fun. Like, it didn't bother me. Just something I noticed. I was like,
So I've got a few notes that I'm not sure where they're going to come up, but I just want to run through them real fast.
Please.
So I took notes here. I expected there to be more notes. So first of all, I was playing on an emulator, but the speed up feature on the emulator was weird. So it didn't have like 2x speed or anything. It was like turn off the frame rate caps. So sometimes it would be going like 1.05 speed, and sometimes it would be going 5 times speed.
5 times is too much.
Yeah. It was like, and you couldn't control which one it was. So at some point I actually turned off the speed up. So that was weird.
That is strange.
I will say in this playthrough, my heart was not in it. I very much was only playing it kind of in between stuff, and I was actually doing the opposite of what you were doing, Mike, in that I was just favoring my starter and one other, and just kind of, because the thing about Pokemon that people don't realize is that Pokemon is easy.
It can be
like, I mean, obviously there's late game stuff, or there's going to be some times where things aren't perfect. But for the most part, if you play Pokemon and you just play with your starter the whole game, you can kind of get through a lot of it. And your starter will be way higher level because they're the only one you're using. So then you don't have to grind. And then also the EXP share, which we had this isn't the modern EXP share that gives it to everybody, but it, that helped too spread out some of the experience to Pokemon that I wasn't using. But yeah, generally I was doing the opposite. I was not playing equal. I was playing, it was all Infernape, and who's the other guy? Pull up my team here. And Luxray.
Okay. I went with Luxray too. He ended up becoming my go-to electric because he's a new Pokemon for this gen, right? For Gen 4? Or is he Gen 3?
I don't know. That's something else I wanted to mention, is that my Pokemon knowledge and my Pokemon, I know Gen 1 really well. I know Gen 2, I know the important ones from Gen 2, but the less important, but the B tier Gen 2, Gen 3, and Gen 4 Pokemon all kind of run together for me.
No,
because
that's
those
fair.
were the ones that I skipped over.
In that same boat, I think Luxray is new to Gen 4, and someone out there is screaming at me, and I could look, but I don't care enough. But no, Luxray was the one I went with too, and he was a great electric type, but he also had a dark move, which I'm like, okay, he should rip apart psychic Pokemon. But again, if they went first, he was dead sometimes because they just had moves that would murder him.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it was. I don't know. And I mean, I got all 8 badges. I did not beat the Elite Four. I'll probably eventually finish it, but like I said, my heart kind of wasn't in it.
Yeah,
and
issues.
I've fought the
podcast.
Elite Four before, once or twice, in every other game.
They're cool in this game. I mean, like, I think the game had a good setup of having you the way it has you traverse across the world, like any other Pokemon game. Like, the dungeons I felt were pretty good in this game. I know there was one that you really liked, Kendall.
Yeah, I thought so. Just in general, I've gotten in a lot of arguments with people about HMs, that I like HMs and other people don't. I think this game is the example of why they're great, and also like maybe why we don't need 8 of them, because 8 is a lot. But
yes.
that final dungeon before you fight the last Team Galactic boss is one of my favorite dungeons in all of Pokemon. I really liked, because maybe you do need 8 if you're going to do this, because you can't use the early game ones, but like I really thought it was cool to surf and strength, and I think you had to rock smash, maybe
rock smash and waterfall
and rock climb, and then eventually waterfall.
Oh yeah,
I think rock climb is actually a good one. Yeah, which like I think that defog is dumb.
Defog is, you don't need it, and it's ridiculously stupid, but yes.
Yeah. Defog is dumb. You know, and I've had this conversation about HMs a million times. Obviously, you know, they can clog up move space, but you don't need, Pokemon's easy. You don't need perfect moves.
Well, you have certain Pokemon that are HM slaves. Like, I had a Machop that I caught very early in the game that had all those moves you just mentioned. Mm-hmm. And whenever I needed to climb somewhere, you know, he had strength, rock smash, and rock climb. He's like, here you go, come on, time for you to earn your worth before.
Yeah, I mean, my Bibarel knows 4 HMs, which is, you know, so that's a thing. But also, like, some of the HM moves are good. Surf is good.
Yes,
Strength is good enough.
Waterfall's fine.
I think, you know, if I was, you know, the only thing is strength shouldn't be a normal type move. It should be a fighting type move, but blah, blah, blah. We've had these conversations before. But I just think, I was like, yeah, this is why HMs are so good. And I was thinking, I was like, how would I fix HMs?
Don't they do like tools nowadays, right?
So,
Pokemon?
So they've done since Gen 7 when they got rid of HMs. So Gen 7, you had rental Pokemon, which I hated. Like, so you could like rent a Lapras to ride on it. And I didn't like it. It took me out of the experience, because it's like, if you can teleport me any Pokemon at any time, anywhere on the map, then why can't I just do it?
Yeah,
Gen 8 was very linear, if I remember right. So you did have some of that. You had a taxi service was the flying Pokemon, but I think for the most part, Gen 8 like was just like, if they don't want you to go there, then there's like a fence. If I remember right, I'm. And Kyle can correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. And then Gen 9,
that's all correct. I'm pretty sure.
Gen 9 did a really interesting thing where they gave you, it was actually like a very like Super Metroid type thing, where they gave you an injured Pokemon who over the course of the game, you know, remembers how to double jump and remembers how to, you know, fly higher and remembers how to swim or whatever, you know. And that was pretty good. What I think would be an interesting choice, I was thinking about it this week, would be to bring back HMs, but give each Pokemon an HM slot.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't eat up one of their moves.
Right, yeah, so it doesn't eat up one of their moves, bad. And then it still has, what I think is interesting is like, you have to have a flying type Pokemon on your team, and you have to have a water type Pokemon on your team, and you have, you know, like and maybe make it so that like each one can only possibly learn one.
Yeah, so you're being forced to, like, I ended up going with one of the fake Pidgeys in this game, the Starly, I think is what they're called, and that was one of my go-tos for. He got to level 50, then he got useless for me because he couldn't beat who I was fighting at that point. He just wasn't good against any Pokemon. I also, for the first time in my Pokemon life, I took a Ponyta, got it up to Rapidash, and went against the Elite Four with it. That was a first.
That's cool.
He's weak, by the way. Rapidash is a weak fire type.
Yeah. He's fast, though.
but even Fire Blast wouldn't kill certain things it should have killed, and then he died. So
I've definitely taken a Rapidash all the way before. I don't remember what my...
I normally go Fire Starter, and I didn't this time because I wanted to be different. So I went with Turtwig, and I regretted that decision. But there are a couple things that this game does differently that I like. You have your rival Barry, who you see off and on. You have the other player character you don't pick, like you can pick a boy or a girl in the beginning, and whoever you don't pick, the other person is around and they get the third Pokemon that you didn't get. And I think I like that. I mean, they don't fight against you, but they help you off and on. I thought that was really cool. I appreciated that. I
want to comment that Wormpole is a Pokemon that I think is going to be on my list of like Pokemon that I hate more than anything, not of any fault of its own, but because of its evolution. So I have this thing, and there's a few different bug type Pokemons that do this, where I catch a bug Pokemon and I'm like, ooh, I wonder what it's going to evolve into.
Another bug.
And then inevitably it evolves into a butterfly or a moth. But Wormpole, every time I catch it, because and I don't remember this until after I evolve it, it always evolves into Cascoon, which Cascoon looks awesome. It looks like a ship from Dragon Ball Z. Like it's awesome. And I'm like, this is gonna evolve into the coolest third evolution ever. It's gonna be something different because I don't remember ever playing this Pokemon before because I've blocked it from my memory. And then it always evolves into Duskox, and I'm like, this is just an ugly Venomoth.
Isn't it Beautifly? Beautifly is the other option, right?
Yeah. Beautifly is like a little bit better, but then it's just a worse Butterfree. So it's like
I just don't use them.
A worse Butter. Yes. No. Yeah. I would not use them either, except for that I forget every single time.
I also don't use bug Pokemon because bug Pokemon are, to me, feel useless. Kyle, do you use bug Pokemon at all?
I barely use them. I kind of feel like Gen 1 was one of the very few gens that actually had decent bug Pokemon, and every other gen's just been kind of me. Like, just, sorry, like, I'm not on camera, so you can't see what I'm doing, but it's just like kind of like shifting my shoulders a little bit, just like, meh. Like, I don't know, like, maybe I'm just being like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not being fair, but it's just, like especially this gen. In fact, Kendall, I just want to say I really appreciate you for your statement earlier with that, like, with this gen, specifically Gen 4, saying that, like, grass Pokemon in this generation suck. Yeah, that's the understatement of the century for this
Yeah, he's not wrong.
It's really sad, too, because I fucking love the shit out of grass Pokemon. Sorry, pardon my French, but, like, especially, like, Gen 1 and Gen 2, like, there's a ton of grass Pokemon that I love. Like, Bulbasaur, like, especially like in Gen 1, like, yo, Bulbasaur is a fucking workhorse. Like, that, like, especially when you evolve him and, like, you train him just right, like, that dude will murder anything in one hit. Like, it's amazing. Like, Bulbasaur is a freaking workhorse and one of my favorite Pokemon of that generation. And it's just, I don't know, like, man, Gen 4, they really dropped the ball with, like, actually useful grass Pokemon. It felt weird. Like,
yeah.
I felt bad that my team wasn't diverse enough. Because, like, I don't know, like, yeah, like, grass and bug Pokemon in this generation, I'm just like, man, these are all just really bleh. Like, they're not really that powerful. They don't actually have any useful statuses. Like, what the hell am I doing wrong here? Am I doing something wrong? Like,
but one of the Elite Four is a bug trainer, and he was tough. And I was like,
because he doesn't have fire. I remember that guy, and his Pokemon do all sorts of weird stuff. Like, and he has like one bug.
If you don't kill him quick,
like
you're in trouble.
Bug. Yeah.
I had a hard time with the Elite Four off and on. But I mean, there's also a bug trainer too early on in this game, which was kind of nice because you don't see that a lot, I think, or I just play Pokemon so unfrequently that I don't remember if it's not Gen 1 or Gen 2.
I had a decently tough time when I beat Pokemon Platinum with the Elite Four. I was kind of lucky. I had managed to kind of bullshit my way through. Like, I was like, I don't know, I was really lucky. I'll say that. Like, I had a ton of really good items, and like about like 4 of like my 6, I believe how many I had, 6 Pokemon were like total workhorses. So like, it's like, all right, this Pokemon's down, or this Pokemon's not good with this. Okay, I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna abuse this move because one move is like so damn powerful.
I feel like I've beaten Pearl version, and now that we're like talking about it, I do remember the Pearl Elite Four being particularly difficult. Like I said, I think that there's some decent AI, considering, and there's some decent movesets considering asterisk for the time or whatever in the first few gens. But I think Gen 4 is like when they figured out how to make certain things difficult. It's still an easy game for babies. Like, don't get me wrong.
No, that's fair. I mean, I used, I think it's Buzio, or at least that's his, I can't remember. It's the otter-looking orange otter water Pokemon. He became my go-to. He was my level, 70 workhorse that, fucking just murdered everybody with Surf. I used him a lot in the very end of the game.
Okay, so my next note here, and you guys can tell me if you have any idea what the heck I'm talking about here.
I will try.
But so Gen 4 for me, I had this epiphany, and this happens with things. Gen 4 for me is the White Album Pokemon games. So the White Album, the Beatles double album that a lot of people love and I hate. When Gen 4, when I was getting, I don't think people talk about this as much anymore, but when Gen 5 and Gen 6 were coming out, a lot of people pointed to Gen 4 as the best Pokemon generation. I think mostly they were talking about Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but I got the sense that it was that in general.
People love Heart Gold and Soul Silver, by the way.
Other albums, if you're not a Beatles fan, Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde
Nice.
also falls into this category, and Tiger Milk by Belle and Sebastian also falls in this category, where it's an album that I, in my journey with those bands, I came to it a little bit later after some of their other quintessential works, and it just and then there were just some the good parts of the good song, you could tell the difference between the radio hits and the deep cuts, and the good songs were just songs that had been ruined for me by being on the radio too much.
That's fair.
And so that's sort of where I couldn't tell you. I don't know that I could tell, as other than the starters and maybe and some of the legendaries. I couldn't tell a single Pokemon that that originated in Gen 4.
No,
they just
fair.
they just all kind of run together for me. I don't feel like they have the personality. I think that starting at Gen 5, I felt like each generation had sort of a style and personality for its new Pokemon. And Gen 4 just doesn't quite have that. It also, though, it looks like Gen 5, and it's got some all of the quality of life, pre jump to 3D. So it doesn't have the nostalgia that I get with the early generations. And even Gen 3 hits a sweet spot for me because it's your second favorite kind of cereal.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, what's that album?
If it's
Billy
music,
the
unless it's
No,
T
you know
Swift,
what?
I won't
It's
be
like
any help.
Magical Mystery Tour
Oh.
for the Beatles, where it's from their it's from the core area, so it sounds like the Beatles, and it's got great stuff, but it's not something you think of first. Or Help is another Beatles album that's like that.
All right, that's it.
But
I mean, I think I think I said earlier, it just really depends on what Pokemon game that you played. This is also the last time we get a third game of a series. They stopped this, and I forgot that this was the end, because you get.
Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid is the Bob Dylan album that I think is Gen 3, because it's I had listened to all of Bob Dylan's 60s and 70s stuff, and then I stumbled on Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and I was like, what the heck? There's he has another album that's this great, and that's how Gen 3 is for me, because it feels like it's an extension of Gen 1 and 2.
I mean, this game was just another Pokemon RPG for me that I ran through. It had the world was fine. There was new Pokemon. One thing I don't think the other gen did is this game, in order to really get the post game, you have to get the National Pokedex. But in order to get the National Pokedex, you have to see every Pokemon in Sinnoh, which I was damn close to doing, by the way. And I thought that was really cool. I mean, there's certain ones I think you don't have to, but what it means, you have to fight all the trainers in the game, because certain Pokemon only trainers will have, or stuff like that, or just kind of explore. I mean, I was missing I think less than 15 by the time I got there, and I just didn't care enough. But maybe there's some post game. It's some of the stuff you can't unlock unless you get that Pokedex. But it was really cool that was a thing, that it wasn't about capturing them, it was about seeing them. And I appreciated it being we just want you to see every Pokemon. We don't give a shit what you capture.
Yeah. I feel like the emphasis on seeing the Pokemon over capturing the Pokemon has continued into further generations.
I played the Hawaii one, Sun and Moon, once, but it's been so long, and that's the last one that I can speak to.
Yeah, I think at least it continued into Gen 5. I want to say it continues on in some way or another. I hate Gen 7.
The touchscreen was nice. Like playing this on a DS, like it was nice at times to hit the touchscreen instead of having to hit a button, but it wasn't as convenient as I would have liked at times, which is again a stupid complaint because a lot of times it's like you don't want to touch the touchscreen. But I was like, yeah, I just want to tap the screen sometimes, and I can't always. So it was just. But that's a small complaint of mine. But it was nice to see. Like I liked the features of it. I mean, they made it work for touch, for a DS, and it was kind of nice to play on real hardware for a change for this show to have the correct experience of a Pokemon game.
Yeah,
because part of the Pokemon game is that slowness of I can't even do the music. I didn't listen to it. But just having that that very slow combat and waiting. Or my favorite was when it'd be your Pokemon attacks. He does water gun, and then it's raining. Like, oh, great. Let's tell me I'm raining every single damn turn. That annoyed me. But
okay, so I got two more quick notes here. First of all, I don't like having to redo gym puzzles. I did not grind in this game, like basically at all. And in Pokemon, my primary way of grinding is by losing gym battles. Like I just keep fighting because like when you fight the most powerful guy that keeps killing you, you usually get a couple of them. And they give you more experience than fighting like 5 random Pokemon.
But you'll lose money.
Yeah, and do you know how, also I never buy anything in these games.
Oh,
so.
I buy a shitload of potions for the Elite Four, and that's it. But not as a kid.
I had like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like in the old games, in the first couple generations, you would lose half your money. In these, like I had $100,000 and I black out and it was like, you gave him $2,000. I'm like, Can I give him $4,000 just to win?
I can't I can't agree with that. Because for me it's the problem of since money isn't something that I can just grind out, I have to get it from trainers and there's a finite amount of it. My FOMO brain kicks in and says, I can't go for that. No can do. And I just will not black out.
See, I went my like hardcore gamer in the back of my mind thing is that I feel like using potions is cheating. Like it's not. Let me be clear.
No, I get it.
It's not. Although it has legitimately for the last 30 years that I've been playing Pokemon. Yes, I had an alpha version in 1994 for the original Nintendo. That's the history. Yeah. Anyway, and I'm Japanese. Anyway, no, but like it has always bothered me that you run into a trainer and he's like, let's have a trainer battle. And he has 1 Pokemon and you have 6 Pokemon. And that's supposed to be fair. Like, even in the show, they were like, we're going to say it's 2-on-2. I don't use items during the game. I don't use items on gym leaders. It's only when it gets to the Elite Four do I use items. Right. So but that's what I'm saying is like, even if you were using items, they give you so much money in this game. Like, there's
I guess but anyway, it's that finite amount thing that just scares my brain. When I was a kid, I didn't do that. I would only beat without using items, but that was kid brain that had nothing better to do but play Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow for 4 hours a day or whatever the fuck I did. So
I use my Master Ball now. Like I never used my Master Ball as a kid, but because I was afraid because of the FOMO or whatever. I'd be like, look, I have to catch Mewtwo. There might be somebody stronger after this guy.
Hey, Mew might be under a truck.
Yeah, exactly. I've used strength on that truck a lot of times. By the way, if you play the Twitch Plays Pokemon hack of Pokemon Red version, highly recommend it. It is great. It was like one of my favorite experiences playing Pokemon in a long time. I did a little while back. You actually use strength on the truck in that hack, and you catch Mew.
That's awesome.
But related to the gym leaders, the problem is when you black out against the gym leader with a number of them. I don't know if it was all of them. A number of them, it reset the gym puzzles.
Oh, okay.
And there was one of them in particular where you're going through doors, and if you go through the wrong door, then it sends you back to the beginning. Yes. And I didn't actually pay attention when they explained how it worked. So like it was actually not much of a puzzle. It was like you go through the red door and then it takes you. And so I was just going through random doors.
Yeah, you have to look for the symbol on the ground.
And it took forever until I realized that was the answer to the puzzle. But I hated it so much because like it would take me like 10 minutes to get in. That's an exaggeration. It would probably took like a minute and a half. But it'd take like a minute and a half to get in. And then I would kill their first Pokemon, and then they would black me out, and then I would have to go all the way back. Same thing happened with that dungeon that I loved so much.
Mount Coronet.
Mount Coronet. I got to the Team Galactic leader, and he kept blacking me out, and I could not. It wasn't even the And then when I was in the alternate universe, I couldn't remember the way to get back to him. It wasn't actually that far, but I kept going the wrong way.
The spear pillar place is very confusing, and they do a good job of making it feel like you're in a different dimension since you jump on platforms and the camera changes, and all of a sudden now you're walking sideways or walking upside down. Like, it does a good job of making you feel like you're somewhere else. Wouldn't you agree, Kyle?
I would agree on that.
It's just cool. I mean, I don't know.
It's great. It's great. I wish if I blacked out, then they would have teleported me right back to the guy.
That's fair.
Like that I didn't have to go through again.
What is your stance on using items when you play Pokemon games?
I don't mind using them at all. Like, I don't really see the issue. Like, if I need to use an item, I'll use an item.
Okay, I was just curious. I mean, I used to be like I can't use items. I gotta save them. What am I saving them for? Who knows? But we're saving them.
I don't know. If you get too pedantic like that, then it's just like, what's the point then? If you spend money on items like
level 99 Pokemon, no one's an issue.
Yeah, true.
That's what we did when I was a kid. Well, that and there was a missing number glitch where you could multiply all your rare candies. So I think that played a big part.
Oh yeah, I remember that glitch. I remember that glitch.
Okay, so this is the worst part about this game. I will tell you the worst thing about this game. That is the one thing about it that is completely unforgivable. And I think that whoever put this in the game should die.
Whoa!
And that is that in the ice is snowy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like right now, but maybe like a couple years early from like if we could figure out when they were going to naturally die, like reduce a few years. Like maybe they should be required to take up smoking. Just
I think that's a little intense. How about they just don't work on a Pokemon game? How about that?
Hey, look, I don't know. I'm not here to stop anybody's livelihood, but this person does need to be punished.
Are you talking about the snowdrifts?
No.
Oh,
I am talking about in the snow level area. There's a little girl who's going to trade you a Haunter, and I was like, I have not been able to play with Gengar in a game in forever because every time I play, it's either me by my lonesome. Or it's an emulator, which is also me by my lonesome. I don't have anybody to trade with, so I can't get. And then I had to like freaking bend over backwards to find the Medicham that she wanted, which I also thought that Meditite would evolve into Medicham, so I trained my Meditite up, but it does not evolve into Medicham because I don't know how Pokemon works.
I had to Google too a couple times.
But anyway, so I trade it, and then she's like, "Your Haunter didn't evolve, did it? It's got an item that'll stop it from evolving."
Oh, okay. I'd be a little upset too. I saw her and I just went, "That's nice," and I kept walking.
I was so mad because that's like the trading. Because that's one of the things about Gen 1 that I like legitimately frustrates me. Although I like, those are like two. Gen 1 is like my favorite. Gen 1 is my number 2 generation. I have my ranking here that I'll share at some point. But like Gen 1 is like, I love those games so much, but I hate that there's certain Pokemon that are so cool you only get through trades. And Gengar is one of my favorite Pokemon. So I was like, yes, I'm going to play Gengar. No, they were like, no, you do not. No, sir, you do not.
No, I get it. That would have upset me. I mean, the problem is, they were very developed for a certain style that doesn't exist anymore. Like I think in emulator, there are ways to get past that. But I don't remember. Like one thing, I know when I played this game last time, I didn't do it this time because I didn't care. I ended up using codes to try to get all the event items to unlock the Pokemon. Because there's a bunch of legendaries that are locked away through events, which don't exist anymore. So,
but yeah,
so I get that. Like it just is upset. It's frustrating.
Also, Twitch Plays Pokemon version though has a guy that will trade you a Haunter and then it evolves. I believe, or something happens. Somehow you can get all those evolutions because that Pokemon, the Twitch Plays Pokemon Red hack, you can catch all 151 Pokemon in one playthrough. It's the only time I've ever completed a Pokedex, but I did that. So that's me plugging this random Pokemon, this random hack from 10 years ago.
I remember Pokemon Twitch was a big deal. It's all good. I remember.
Do you guys have rankings of the generations?
No, because I haven't. Kyle might. I don't.
Not really. I mean, I have it a little bit in my brain, but I can't pull it out like right now,
Okay.
like a list like that. Like it's wow, that would take for hours.
Do you know your your top 2 or 3?
Oh, geez, I think Pokemon probably Crystal at number 1, I think. Let me think. Pokemon Crystal, Pokemon X and Y are like either version of that generation, and then shit, let me think.
It's all good. We put you on the
I don't
spot.
know if I could make still a fair list, because there's still like a few, like oddly enough, I haven't played the remakes of Generation 3 for the 3DS. I still haven't played those, but I want to. But now that I have a hacked 3DS, it's going to be a lot easier to. Yeah, I still, I don't know if I actually could make a top 3. I'm sorry. Yeah,
okay.
They're hard to, like, they're all, to me, this just felt like another Pokemon game with a little bit new experience, but it wasn't anything super special. To me, like, I had a good time. Like, I don't want to act like I didn't have a good time, but this game was nothing like, crazy good. Like, wow, I got to play this. I mean, I felt the game did a good job of giving me new Pokemon and some old Pokemon that I knew and loved, and I had a good mixture. There were definitely a lot of new Pokemon, more new Pokemon than I think old Pokemon. Because I can tell, because when I would fight things, I would have to Google who they were, because I'm what type they are.
You're right. Actually, you're right, because I remember Gen 4. I remember Pearl version specifically leaning on the Gen 1 Pokemon a lot, and I did not get that sense with this playthrough. That's a good point.
Yeah, no, they did a good job of giving you new stuff to mess with, and you fight a lot of new Pokemon too. You don't fight as many old Pokemon, I feel like, with the trainers. I mean, I didn't see a Spearow, I didn't see a Rattata anywhere. Even think about that.
Plenty of Zubats.
A lot of Zubats, but that's
lots
a
of
go-to for the
Zubats.
evil guys.
Oh God, Zubats.
Oh man, they love Confuse Ray in this game. Woo, they love Confuse Ray.
So my ranking, I'll go ahead and share it.
Sure.
Just for fun. So Gen 7 is my number 9. It's the worst game ever. It's the only one I couldn't finish.
Which one is 7,
I eventually
anyway?
will go back to that. Gen 7 is Sun and Moon.
Oh, okay.
Then Gen 4 is my number 8, so that speaks to the Gen 3 is my number 7. Gen 5, because I like, it's very similar to Gen 4, but with a little bit more nostalgia. Gen 5, I think is they crossed that line of like the new stuff is actually makes up for the missing old stuff, and I love about Gen 5 that it's all new, that it's 150 new Pokemon and they're like their own style.
I didn't know. That's cool. I did not know that.
Then Gen 8 I thought was really cool. Jump to a modern console and was just a very cinematic experience. Like it's much more linear. There's limited Pokemon. Like it's not as maybe Pokemon-y, but it is like a legit. This is a console. This is a console game experience. Yeah. And they had the Gigantamaxes and the soccer stadiums, and then they had the one guy that was too cool to Gigantamax. I love it. Gen 6 is my number 4. Jump to 3D on the 3DS. It had a really solid story, and
X and Y, right?
And I love that. Yeah, X and Y. Love the world. That was I felt like that maybe Platinum paved the way for Gen 6, because Gen 6 you could catch 100 Pokemon, but before you got 2 badges. Like,
oh, wow,
it's insane how diverse the Pokemon are, especially in the early game. But there's literally 500 obtainable Pokemon in just one playthrough.
I think this game is like 250 or so.
Right.
At first, and then once you get the National Pokedex, once you beat the game and have seen everything, then you can start trading Pokemon from the other games. Because like the legendary birds are in this game. And
then my number 3 is Gen 9, Scarlet and Violet. I did not have any. I didn't get it on release, but I didn't have any performance problems. I mean, it had there was a little bit of like clipping and stuff, and it does. I mean, it looks like a GameCube game, but GameCube games are pretty. And it felt like, again, for me, it felt like I was playing Skyrim mixed with Pokemon, which is like amazing. And you're like flying around this giant world, and yeah, it's empty. Yeah. And playing the gym being able to play the gym battles out of order was amazing. I love like fighting, I love fighting. I'm the guy that goes to Fuchsia City sometimes before I fight Erica in Gen 1. You know, I love doing stuff out of order in these games when you can. And so being able to fight any gym leader in any order, as long
cool.
as long as you could, like, to an extent, like there's again, because there's that kind of that Metroid, you know,
where you need certain items.
Samus forgot how to turn into a ball thing to you get to certain areas.
To be honest with you, so probably I guess.
Yeah. It was real good. Also, there's a side story in that about the guy's sick dog that, like, it's the first time I've cried in a Pokemon game. You know, since I paid to see Godfather 3. No, since I paid for Sun and Moon. And then number 1 is my number 2 because it's Gen 1. It's a perfect game.
Yeah. And
then Gen 2 is my number 1 because they took a perfect game and they made it better.
I feel like the main differences with Platinum versus Diamond and Pearl is that you get they added Gurtana, which is a big Pokemon on the cover, and you can get Daiga and Pika, which are the legendaries from Pearl but you can't Pearl and Diamond, but you can't get them until after you beat the game. I thought it was fine. Yeah,
I mean, it's been a long time since I played Pearl version. I didn't notice a lot of major changes to the extent that I feel like Crystal and Emerald.
Oh yeah, they had a lot of changes.
That is like a version 1.5. I feel like Platinum, and I mean also Gen 4, I couldn't tell you what changed from Gen 3 to Gen, other than the prettiness. And I think they took away some features going into Gen 4.
I don't think a lot changed, in my opinion. But again, I'm not the best person to speak to Pokemon like that, because I play it here and there, but I don't really, like, I never know any of the ins or the outs. I don't mess with any of that stuff. I just enjoy the game.
Like Crystal version, like, I feel like it's unlikely that I will ever play Gold and Silver again unless I'm just trying to check off some boxes. Like,
and it's
Crystal is like,
you'll ever play this again either. I'm pretty sure the sound of it.
Well, yeah. I don't know. So here's what I would say is I could see myself playing Gen 4 again.
Okay.
But my go-to would probably be Diamond or Pearl, not necessarily Platinum. Whereas with 2 and 3, I think I would default to Crystal and Emerald.
No, and that's very fair. I mean, I normally when I play through these games, I try to get all the legendaries. But I didn't even try to go fight Dalga and Pakia. Like, I know you have to go back up to the spear pillar and you climb up the tower and then you can go fight them. Like, you can open them up, and I was going to kill both of them because I wasn't going to bother catching them. But the urge wasn't there to do it. And I know, like, the other post games, you get access to an island that you can go to, and then you have like the last bit of story of you fighting Team Galactic, I guess, there. But again, I just wasn't concerned enough. But yeah. Oh, and then another character we haven't mentioned is Cynthia, who's, I forget, her mother is somehow connected to the space Pokemon or something like that. She has something to do with the story. I don't remember a whole lot about her.
The story didn't hook me, but again, my heart just wasn't in it in this playthrough. I feel like at a different time in a different place, you know, I would have played this while I was watching the anime, or like certainly like when it had come out. If this was the only Pokemon game that I'd played in 2 years, then that would be something else. But if we're talking about like going, I just feel like it's in like an uncanny valley between the games that I would go back to and have. It's not just nostalgia. Those early games are also really streamlined, because we haven't even mentioned contests.
What were the contests?
Didn't you have to do it to beat one of the gym leaders?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Because I never understood how that's the epitome of the Pokemon mini game that nobody cares about, and you have to do it once to move the story forward. And it's like you have to select like how you're going to make your Pokemon jump up and down, and it's like it's the worst.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
And also Pal Park was in this one, which is something that people were crazy about. That's the thing where your Pokemon will follow you around.
Oh, I went in there once because I was looking for items.
But people got so mad when it wasn't in Gen 5, if I remember right.
Oh.
So
okay.
So that's something that people like. And I mean, I can understand, like, it would be cool because it's, because literally any Pokemon will follow you around. So they did sprites for every single Pokemon. Which
they've done that I feel like they've done that for a while. I always like that.
Well, now they have it because it's like the 3D stuff, but it's only I mean, I think the only, it was like up to this, that was the first time that it was a thing. Other than, Pikachu in yellow version.
Okay.
But I think those early games are just so streamlined, and then like they've kind of gotten, this is like the peak of the hill of them just like adding, we're going to add this system and add this system and add this system and add this system and a bunch of stuff that nobody really cares about. And then it dialed back, I think, in Gen 5 just a little bit with limiting to the new 150 Pokemon. And I don't remember how many HMs there are in Gen 5, but it is less than 8.
I mean, this isn't a beloved game of the series. I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about Black and White 1 and 2, or Black, and so I think that's where a lot of people fell more in love.
I saw a picture of an IGN list that somebody on social media was bad that said this was the 8th best, or that was mad about, that said this was the 8th best Pokemon game of all time, and the top 5 were, and that's like individual games, like not generations. So like this is a game that is held pretty highly, I think.
Oh, never mind.
And I think that the people that, there's also the people that hate Gen 1, 2, and 3
Not
that they, that they'll point to this one as one of the better generations. So yeah, I mean, I could see like if you hate Gen 1, 2, and 3 because they're too old and you're old and don't like, and they're for old men. And then you feel like starting at Gen 7, the game's got too kiddie and handholdy. Like if you really like the DS, basically the DS era, then this is going to be one of them that you like.
I do want to play more. One of the things I'd like to always mention what legendaries are in the games. Like I mentioned earlier, the birds show up, but only, and they run around the world. You got to do like random encounters, which I love. You have the 3 fairies in this game that run around too, I think. I didn't mess with them.
Yeah. Those, that's funny because my wife, there was a Pokemon Go event with one of them, and my wife was catching it, and I was like, who is that? I don't know who that is. This was a few months ago. And then my Pokemon of the Day calendar, it was on that day. And we had to look it up, and that it was a legendary from Gen 4. And I was like, oh, that's why. It's Gen 4.
Uxie, Asleaf, and Mesprit are the 3 little fairy Pokemon.
Yeah, it was Uxie.
That get captured by Team Galactic, and then they're like experimenting on to open a portal. Then you have Plakia and Daiga, which are the ones from the cover of Pearl and Diamond. You have Heatran, which I only know who he is for mentioning Pokemon Go. A long time ago, I was at the Mall of America, and there was a gym battle of Heatran. And I remember it was winter, and we had to stand outside in order to do the gym, and there were all these people gathered up just fighting Heatran. And I remember my wife got him, and I didn't. That's how I know him. I didn't go fight him in this game because I just didn't care enough to go there and do it. And then you have the golems, but I think they have to be imported. I don't think they're actually in the game, but you need them in order to get Regigigas or something. I didn't mess with any of that. I was trying to go to Cresselia or get Cresselia or just see Cresselia and kill it, where you go to Full Moon Island, but the child that was supposed to be sick wasn't sick because I didn't have the National Pokedex. That's when I said, I'm done. And then there are 3 Pokemon in this game that are event only, which really upsets me. Darkrai, which some giant ghost looking thingy. Shyman, which is a little green hedgehog, which I only know because I fought him in Pokemon Go before in one of the gym battles, in one of the raids. I think that's what they were called. I haven't played Pokemon Go in years. I moved on from that game.
I'm like an old timey radio host. Hey, today on Pokemon with the platinum version.
Fair. And then Arceus, which I thought Arceus would be in this game because Arceus, I've heard people talk about him, but he's not in this game. You have to have a Pokemon event, which doesn't exist anymore, to get an item from a Nintendo event in order to get him.
Yeah, I think Arceus is like a Mew type where it's not where you pretty much can only catch them. Yeah, then like when there's events.
Okay. I mean, I always like when they have more legendaries in a game. I mean, again, for me, this is getting into uncharted Pokemon territory, so it's nice to experience things that I have no knowledge of, which is what happened.
Well, the games only get better from here, except for the one that apparently you played, which was the worst one.
I liked it. But then again, I hadn't played a Pokemon games for like 5 to 10 years, so...
Okay, so this actually, that does actually bring... So this game, actually, I ran into an issue that I actually did run into with Gen 7 as well. And that is that there were a lot of times where like you get to a city and you go to the gym and some guy's like, the gym leader is not here. And then somebody that you talk to somewhere tells you where the gym leader is, but you don't remember what they said. And then you have no idea where to go. And it's like, maybe they're in the, or like the gym leader's not there, but you have to figure out how to push forward the Team Galactic storyline or whatever by flying all over the map. And they do tell you where to go, but you have to be paying attention. And it's like one guy tells you one time where to go. And then if you weren't paying attention to that, or if you like, you know, pause the game and come back tomorrow and you don't remember, like there's no, like you have to look it up on the internet where to go. Like it might be halfway across the map. And that was a little, I feel like they don't do that as much anymore. And then in the earlier games, again, they were like simpler, or maybe I just had them all memorized.
I think we just had them memorized, to be honest. I think that plays a big part of it. We just knew our Pokemon games because we were kids and that's all we did.
Yeah. Well, and we had the guides, playing with the Prima guide.
Yeah.
And I don't mind looking stuff up. It's just like, I felt like the way they did it, especially the gym leader's not here right now thing.
They do it a few times.
It was a couple too many times. Like, and like the one city, the last city that you go to that the power's out for the whole game until after, that was really annoying because
that was.
There's just a guy telling me I can't go there. And I literally, after every city, I went back there and talked to that guy and he said, no, you can't come yet. Because like, you know that eventually you're going to have to go that way. So I'd be like, okay, here's a plot point that I just moved forward. Now I'm going to go back to that guy. And I feel like the modern games don't have that as much. I think
that's just old RPGs.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, your favorite game has that. And that's the reason that I couldn't finish it.
I mean, Chrono Trigger, I can't, I'm biased too. That game's memorized in my head. So there's that too.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. It's also like in 1992, what else were you doing? You could just explore the whole map and stuff. But like, that was my issue with Chrono Trigger was it wasn't, again, it's like, it's not when it happens once. It's not when it happens twice. It's when it's just like, that's the whole thing. Like, cause it was like with Chrono Trigger, I'd be like, oh, where do I go? I look it up. Okay. It's here. Okay. Now I'm here. Where do I go? I have to look it up. Okay. Now I'm here. Fair. Where do I go? And
I mean, I might have had that with this game if I wasn't using a guide off and on to figure out where to go. So I didn't have that problem, but I could definitely see it being a problem otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I just should have paid attention. I just was checked out when I was playing the game. It is entirely my fault.
That happens. But it was That's just one of the things. Like when you do it for a podcast and you do it for a reason, that happens. I've been there with multiple games where I'm like, I don't want to play this, but I have to, so I'm going to play it. But no, I 100% get it. And I'm also just I don't do a video game podcast regularly, so I don't play on a time frame regularly, and I think that's why. I mean, all three of these Pokemon games that I've helped you review, I haven't finished, and that never happens with Pokemon games. No, you normally beat them. I always beat them, but it's just like, if it takes me an extra week, it takes me an extra week. Games always take longer than I think I'm going to. I was supposed to beat Cuphead 2 weeks ago, and that hasn't happened. That's different. That game is hard as fuck. So, yeah. I mean, this game took me, if I can pull up my save, I think it took me around 40 some hours to finish Pokemon Platinum. Oh, wow. That's usually it takes me about 30 to finish a Pokemon. So. I mean, this was a long game. I mean, part of that was grinding, and part of this was I didn't play in time 2 speed, but the game took me a while to get through. Like, because there were multiple times where I had to grind. It just I grinded a lot throughout the game, too, just to keep, 43 and a half hours to finish the game. Pokedex was 203. That's like 2/3 of a Dark Souls. I think that's the other thing is that I've been playing Dark Souls and Cuphead, and like, I hate to say this because I am a big defender. I don't have a problem with grinding fundamentally. I love Pokemon's battle system and everything, but I will say that like grinding in Dark Souls is more fun than grinding in Pokemon. Like when you're grinding in an action RPG, yes, you're actually having to like, swing your sword around. And even, I mean, Cuphead it's grinding in a different way. I'm leveling my personal gamer level up. I'm not necessarily
leveling my character up, but like, but I do sit and listen to a podcast for 2 hours while I die to a boss over and over again. So it's basically grinding.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, podcasts.
And it's great. Yeah, no, I agree. That's great. It's like a meditative thing. It's like a thing to keep busy with my hands. It's the whole, yeah, no, I love that. It's just that when you do that a bunch and then you go back to Pokemon where it's a little more passive, the grinding can be a little bit like I understand why people have been like, we need to reinvent Pokemon and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, like I've stayed away from Pokemon Legends Arceus because I was afraid because everybody's like, I hate all Pokemon games, but Arceus was good.
I want to play Arceus.
That's not really a selling point for me. I'm sure that I will actually enjoy it and eventually I will play it, but like, don't start it off by saying Pokemon has been boring for 20 years.
Oh, if that's how they start, that's bad.
Because that's not, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the point that's not the point of Nintendo, but it's like when Andor came out and all the reviews were like, unlike all the other Star Wars content, this is good. And I'm like, I like the other stuff.
Most Star Wars is good. So, but no, I get that.
I feel like I've been talking a lot. Kyle, do you have any opinions? Is Kyle back from getting a drink?
Yes.
No, yeah, I've been back for a little bit. No, I didn't want to like interrupt anybody or anything. Yeah, but no, I really, really dug the hell out of Platinum. It's not like necessarily my favorite Pokemon game in the mainline series, or like even for as much as I love Gen 4 and how it actually did get me back into Pokemon like full blown. No, like I still really dug this game a lot. There were some parts of it that I really appreciated. I feel like its pacing is pretty solid for what it is. I feel like its challenge level isn't too overly drawn out or overly difficult or overly too easy. I think it's just a decent middle. And yeah, I really dig this game. I've been on such an interesting Pokemon Odyssey the past year and a half now. Actually, Kendall, I'm kind of in your ballpark. When you mentioned that you didn't get Scarlet or Violet on launch day, I did not either. I was a little like I was like, okay, this actually looks pretty cool, but like I at the time I just didn't have like the money. Plus, it was also just like I want to get this on launch day, but I'm not sure if I will be able to. And then I kind of just gave it some time, and I was like, I'll get that. Like I'll get it soon enough, whatever. And it was in like the back of my mind, and so I actually finally did pick it up, and I have been playing it as well. Not for this podcast specifically, but I have been playing it since I got the game a couple of months ago. And yeah, that generation is kind of what I've dreamed that I thought a mainstream 3D Pokemon would be like. Like just kind of like this big wide world of like, you can kind of go anywhere in a sense. Like, I don't know, I've always kind of dreamed of that type of Pokemon. Like, I remember being a little kid and dreaming of like, what would a 3D Pokemon main game be like? And it would be something like Mega Man Legends, but like an RPG, or it would be this big wide world that you could go, you really felt like you were a Pokemon trainer. Like you could go on these adventures like in the cartoon, or you could go exploring and you could catch Pokemon, and you and your Pokemon would go look at stuff and get items. And yeah, I've had such an interesting little Pokemon Odyssey the past year now, and just looking back at this game, especially as a fully grown-ass adult, I don't know, I'm actually still really impressed with Platinum. Platinum's a good time, and even with how much I enjoyed the remakes for Nintendo Switch of Pearl and Diamond, I still feel like there's still a warrant to really play this specific version of Gen 4. I think there's still there's still several good reasons to do so, even if, like, I may not have stated them tonight in this podcast. I feel like that's kind of up for the gamer to decide if they do try this out. Just I think you might find your answers if you really sorry, I know that sounds a little defeatist of a discussion, but I feel like the proof is in the pudding. It's I really believe that with Pokemon remakes you should experience both because they're so different. Oh yeah, definitely. Like, and see which one works for you and just kind of just get a taste of it, like really get an experience for it.
Because you're not playing it for the story.
So I missed the Diamond and Pearl remakes. Just sort of like $60 is a lot of money, and sometimes
I get that.
So what, like, elements would you say? First of all, what elements are differ from? Well, okay. So how is it? Because the reviews that I've heard of the Diamond and Pearl remakes have been that it is mostly just a graphical upgrade. Otherwise, the games are pretty similar to the Gen 4 versions, and so it kind of feels like a step backward compared to other modern games, as opposed to like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, which just felt like you were playing a new campaign in X and Y. How do the like which end of the spectrum do you actually feel like the Diamond and Pearl remakes fall on?
I kind of feel like, well, oddly enough, this isn't Pokemon, but I kind of feel like they fall on the spectrum of the Game Boy Color remakes of Dragon Warrior / Dragon Quest 1 and 2, where I feel like the Gen 4 remakes really cut the fat of the original game. Like, a lot of the grinding isn't as, it doesn't feel as grind heavy as the original. The pacing and the difficulty is quite a bit easier. I was actually kind of shocked by that. Like, the difficulty in the remake is quite a lot easier. I do appreciate the really cutesy graphics. I know for a lot of people, apparently they didn't like it, but I actually really loved the cutesy graphics for the Gen 4 remake. I thought the little chibis were adorable. I mean, come on, my user nickname, my online nickname is Chibi UFO, so of course I'm going to dig the hell out of that. But I think that, like, it's still really worth playing through, and I think there's definitely some really nice quality of life improvements with the Gen 4 remake. I totally get the price thing, because I'm Canadian, so for a lot of the times, your $60 is $70 for us. So, being as I said a little earlier, a fully grown ass adult, sometimes you just don't have the price range to get a video game every week or whatever. Like, sometimes you gotta focus on paying rent or paying bills, or making sure you got groceries or anything like that. So I totally feel you there, Kendall.
Yeah.
Adulthood.
But I will just say, like, this is, I'm sure I'm not the only person who's ever said this, but like, it is a good time to be a Pokemon fan right now.
Oh, definitely.
You can, so we've got, Arceus, everybody who hates everything loves. And then I think there's a certain type of fan that really did enjoy Scarlet and Violet. And I think that the general, like the negativity of the performance issues and stuff, I think has kind of gone a little bit away on that for the zeitgeist.
I'd say those patches that Nintendo's been issuing for Scarlet and Violet have really, I feel like those have really cut down the criticism a little bit. I still feel like it's there, but it's not as loud as it was. Like, I feel like those have really helped out quite a lot. Yeah,
but then also, like, we have, I mean, there were that Pokemon I Choose You anime from a few years ago was great.
Yeah, that movie. That was a really fun movie.
Yeah. There were, and I think there were a couple of movies that sort of retold the early anime show that were real good. Pokemon Go is great, is like the thing that, like, people wish existed. First of all, Pokemon Go is what people who were playing Pokemon Go wished it was when it first came out.
Yeah.
But it's a great, it's a great experience.
It has its own communities too. Like, it's amazing how long that still survived. Like, people still love the crap out of that game, and they love the format, and it's so easy to play. You just pull your phone out and start, getting stuff, and you start getting the Pokemon. It's like, this is still so accessible.
We had the Pokemon Snap remake relatively recently that got generally good results. I mean, really, the only thing Nintendo could do right now, there's two things Nintendo could do right now that would, like, improve that would continue to, like, make Pokemon fans' lives better. Is one, release all the old games on the Switch online. At least the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance games. And then also, like, just bat it out of the park with Generation 10, which is, we all know is, around the corner, probably not until the Switch 2, but like, if they really bat it out the park with the next one.
I only have one little request for, like, if this would make my Pokemon life perfect. Like, one thing only. And if they still have the developers for it, I would really appreciate if they could get the original developers and the original development staff. I believe it was Jupiter. Please, Nintendo, please, please, please. I'm not asking for any mainline Pokemon stuff. I'm only asking for this one Pokemon game. Can you please, please, for the love of God, for me, can you make a new Pokemon pinball? I love Pokemon pinball for the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance Pokemon pinball as well. Like Pokemon pinball is like probably my favorite like pinball video game of all time, and I love those games so much. And like one of my like emulator testers that I use, and like one of my like go-to games for like testing out like a flashcard or whatever is playing Pokemon pinball. And like, holy mother of God, I've played that game so many times already, and I still go back and I still love the crap out of it. Like, please, can you, Nintendo, if you have any power in you, can you please get the original Jupiter staff? Because I believe that was the developer of the Pokemon pinball games, Jupiter. If you can please get that development staff back together, if they're still around, please get them to make a new Pokemon pinball for like Switch or whatever. Like, I just want a new Pokemon pinball, please.
That's fair.
I will. I'll add to that. Some of the classic Pokemon side games are on the Switch Online service.
Thank God.
You can play Pokemon Puzzle League, which is great.
Oh,
and you can play Pokemon. I played through Pokemon Trading Card Game for the first time earlier this year.
Nice. That's a fun game.
One of the first episodes of this podcast, if I remember right.
16 or 14.
That was
it's somewhere around there.
That's a very pleasant game. I thought that's what you were going to call for a remake of the Pokemon Trading Card Game. I mean, I know there's like the actual game that you can play like online, which I've actually considered getting into, except for I'm way too old to be playing Pokemon cards. But
well, you have your own card fandom. You don't want to have two card fandoms.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Although they talked me into buying a box of. So Kyle, I play the out of print Star Wars customizable card game from the 90s.
Oh God, nice.
And yeah, we've got a great community. There's a few thousand of us left. We had 69 players at Worlds last year, so it's a whole thing. They've got an agreement with Lucasfilm to be able to produce new card designs. It's a really cool community. But
nice.
they did talk me. Some people did talk me into buying the intro set for the Star Wars Unlimited trading card game. So we'll see if I get into that. But like, you can't freaking buy the packs anywhere. Until I can buy the packs off the shelf, I'm not going to dive in. But
you gotta be able to get new cards. Card games.
And I mean, also Pokemon cards. It's cool that they still exist. There's like this next gen. One of my favorite things is people my age who have kids, and their kids are getting into Pokemon cards, and it's like people who like, because I'm Mike and I we're old. We're 36. We're not young like you 34-year-olds. But like there's people who are like in my social circles who are like, if you were born like 10 minutes after me, then you were too old for Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like that's just how the rules are. I don't know.
It's not like, that far off. Like I remember I was young enough for Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, but then by Silver and Gold I was getting too old, and by Ruby, Sapphire I was done.
Right. So yeah, and I believe that you were born, you're also November of 87, right?
I am, yes.
Yeah, so if you were born in December of 87 or later, then you're too old for Pokemon. Sorry, no. Rather, wait a second. I did the math wrong.
You did it. If you're born
in October of 87 or earlier, then you're too old for Pokemon.
Except I was introduced to Pokemon by people who were older than me by like 5-6 years. So.
Oh wow.
Oh well.
That's who originally got me into Pokemon.
Damn. All right.
Yeah, but well, that's outliers.
It probably was. Yes, it was a strange
I've been doing
guy.
Research for a long time. But my point is, like, people who are like 38 will come up to me and they'll be like, "My kid's getting into Pokemon cards. It's awesome. We get to go. It's an excuse to go to the comic book shop. Like, I'll buy my comics and then I'll buy him a pack of cards and he's happy." And it's like our generation, kind of like how like my dad would buy me baseball cards when I was a kid. Even though I didn't get, because he understood the concept of baseball cards, even though I wasn't into sports at all. Like there's like a generation whose parents understand the idea of buying Pokemon cards. Even if they're, and I mean, there's people our age who have kids who like are into Pokemon and their kids are into Pokemon and everything's great. But there's even like, my favorite thing is the people who are like, whose parents are like yeah, like I said, like 10 minutes too old for Pokemon, but that understand the idea of it, and then now their kids are getting into it, and it's cool, and it's so cool. They got like apps, so you can like scan the card, and it'll tell you how much it goes for to make sure the kids aren't ripping each other off, and also the game hasn't changed. This is the thing about Pokemon that people complain about the game not changing, which this is true of the card game and it's true of the video game. The great thing about Pokemon being the same thing over and over again is, Kyle, when you came back with Gen 4, when I came back with Gen 5, I turned it on. I had my guy walk around and talk to the guy, and he said, which Pokemon do you want? And I took the Pokemon, and we got into a fight, and I was like, this is the same, like, it's like I didn't miss a day.
Yeah, same.
And it's which is just great that you can. I love a hobby that you can be super into as a kid and then go away for a while and then come back and be able to jump right back in. You know.
No, that is definitely fair. Because
if you play it, I've never played an Assassin's Creed game except for the worst one. I'm not going to say which one it is because I don't care. But I played one of them that's supposed to be bad. But like, if you played Assassin's Creed 1, it was Assassin's Creed 3. But you played Assassin's Creed 1, and then you didn't play Assassin's Creed, and then you picked up Assassin's Creed, I don't know what it's called, Iliad or whatever.
Origins. We'll go with Origins.
Assassin's Creed, Odyssey, Orient, Revolutions.
Killing me.
Arkham City, DX.
You're right. Those do change a lot from every single game.
The game has changed. Or like if you played Zelda for Nintendo, the original, Legend of Zelda, and then you jump into Breath of the Wild, it's a completely different game.
Yeah. And where Pokemon is mostly the same thing, really, until
where if you did not play Violet, a video game,
or no, Sword and Shield, right? Isn't that when it changes? I
mean, even the Switch games, it's fundamentally like there are changes, but it still is you get one of the 3 starters and you fight. I mean, Gen 7 they went away from gym leaders, but they learned their lesson, and that's why that's one of the many reasons Gen 7's terrible. But Gen 7 held your hand enough, whatever. But like, you pick one of your 3 starters, you go around and you catch Pokemon. They can learn up to 4 moves. You gotta fight the guys, and then you gotta fight the other guys, and there's a bad guys that you gotta fight too. And it's an open world Metroidvania. I was explaining what a Metroidvania was to my wife. I was mansplaining what a Metroidvania was to my wife earlier today. And it's like, it's basically every video game is a Metroidvania at this point, right?
Yeah.
Close. Getting there. But yeah, the certain things, yes. But
depending on what your criteria is.
Oh, speaking of mansplaining, today I was playing Kingdom Hearts Dream Dark Distance, and the guy says, I am Ansem. And my wife looked at me, she's like, who's Ansem? I'm like, I can't answer that question for you. For those that play a lot of Kingdom Hearts, they get that. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, if I'm going to try to explain this, you're going to be upset with me within 10 seconds. Because I'm going to keep, this is like a 30-minute question. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts crazy. Sorry, what were you? I know I wanted to go on the mansplaining joke, then I just got lost.
No, I think I made my point. That
okay, I did want one thing real quick. I want to say
that my point is that Pokemon Silver is the best Metroidvania of all time. That is my point.
Okay.
Oh my God.
I do want to say that there are 3 Pokemon movies that came out that deal with this generation that are all 3 direct sequels to each other. So I thought that was cool. Never seen any of them. Who knows I ever will, but there are 3 movies for this generation.
I don't think I've seen the Gen 4 ones.
I haven't seen anything since Pokemon 1. So
there are some good ones. It's so funny how some of them are really good and some of them are really bad. But I Choose You, Pokemon I Choose You is the one that if you haven't seen, like if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix and it's good.
Okay. And we're going to go on to questions, comments, or memories. I got a few. I got from the official Laser Time community from Joe Menivar. I think this was the first Pokemon I ever bought. Previous ones were played on emulators. I bought every generation after until they moved to Switch. They're just so expensive now. A couple years ago, my nephew got really interested in Pokemon, so I lent him out my old 3DS and a bunch of Pokemon games, including this one. I don't think Platinum was his favorite. Also, he's a fellow Canadian, too, because I know him. He was on the show once. So, all right. And then from I watched the entire Orblood Super Replay from Andrew Burns. I definitely used to view Gen 4 as the bottom of the series back in the day. But I did play them when they released, so now I'm pretty nostalgic for them. Gen 4 is also the first and currently only Gen where I completed the National Pokedex, so that increased my fondness for Gen 4 further. I played Diamond and Pearl as a kid, but I didn't try Platinum until I completed the Pokedex a few years ago. It's definitely noticeably better as it helps with the gym pacing and fleshes out the main antagonist. I also think all 3 games had some of the better music in the series and also some really underrated town and route designs. I also like some of the unique mechanics like the honey trees and berry planting. Other than maybe Heart Gold and Soul Silver, is also probably the game that benefits from and utilizes the day/night cycle to its greatest extent. Overall, even if the Gen 4 games are far from the best in the series, I think they still pretty easily outclass some of the more modern stuff like X and Y and Sword and Shield. Haven't played Scarlet and Violet, so can't speak for those. Okay. From
That
Kevin...
is so wrong. That is like, I'm sorry. Look, you can say that it's, I mean, you can be positive on this. Like, I think ranking Pokemon games against all video games, we've only talked about it in terms of Pokemon, like versus all video games. Like this is still like an 8 out of 10. Like this is still like, and that's aggressive. Maybe a 9 out of 10. Maybe a 9.5 out of 10. But like it's like when I gave you my 9 Pokemon generations, if I gave you my top 10 video games, there's a good chance that 8 out of 10 of them would have been mentioned here. So every single Pokemon game is amazing, but to say that it's worse than X and Y and Sword and Shield, which are like excellent.
I can't speak to it because I haven't touched.
I
Slowly.
That's just wild. That is like the most. It's like when people say that Damian Wayne is their favorite Robin. Like I cannot understand where people are. And he didn't say Sun and Moon. He could have just said some of the other ones like Sun and Moon. Then I'm like, yes, it is better than those. You could have said that because Sun and Moon is definitely worse than either of the 2 mentioned. I'm angry. That guy's. I don't know.
And from Kevin Belant, Diamond and Pearl were the games that kind of killed my enthusiasm for Pokemon for a long time. I didn't end up playing another Pokemon game until X and Y, I believe. I played Platinum for my first time a few years ago, and I really enjoyed it. It didn't feel like nearly as much of a slog as Pearl and Diamond for me. I thought the story was pretty interesting as well. From Lucas Inachi, I actually just revisited this game to trade some of my old Pokemon up to Switch. I love this game, but man, is it so slow. Watching those health bars crawl down is absolute torture. But anyway, fun fact, this is the last Pokemon generation to have a 3rd version. Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, and Platinum usually served as definite additions for their respective generation, but were never gotten one since. I think it's a good thing, though. The existence of Platinum made Diamond and Pearl totally irrelevant, and it sucked having to buy a whole new game just for a few extra updates. The only thing worse was Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which was split into 2 versions to be even more annoying.
Didn't people like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon because Sun and Moon were so bad?
Maybe,
but
I don't know.
I didn't play them. I just thought, but that it is always funny to me. And I mean, granted, like we've talked about like slow stuff when gamers like point out like some aspect of a game that's like that took 4 seconds. That's way too long. Like, I mean, I will admit that when he mentioned it, that the health bars do go down really slow in some circumstances in this game, and I just assumed it was like because they had a lot of damage on the being marked or something, like it was a situation where I was just barely doing the damage or something. But it's just like when people talk about like load times and they're like, there was like a 10-second load time. I'm like, what are you doing with your life? That
I mean, if you're doing other stuff,
so
it
important.
wasn't noticeable.
I don't know. I just like, it's always fun. It's a thing that gamers do a lot. I feel like, is they're like,
I'm guilty of it.
Every time you have to do that, I had to click 2 times to get to the attack, or whatever. Like gamers.
It's also that era. we're now used to instant gratification, instant loading, and when you have to go back to that, I think we saw it's hard for some of us.
Also, I hear it, and it's like particularly egregious because I always play on old hardware, like every video game ever. So I always deal with long load times, and people are like, the load times on this game barely runs. I'm like, seems like it ran time to me. I only had like a 45-second load time every time I went into a new room. So that's like every game, right?
It's also called entitlement.
Yeah, that too. You're right.
And last comment from Ryan Brown. One of my favorite Easter eggs in the game is that if you run away from Giratina instead of catching it, you get different dialogue from Cyrus, who essentially praises you for solving the problem without fighting. Okay. And then I did post this in the Discord, which I'm trying to do sometimes. So hey, join our Discord. You see a link in the show notes. You can also you can comment on the questions. I try to post that every week, which I haven't for a while. But from Pokemon Platinum, first from Kenneth Sanity. Man, this was my first post-gen post-Gen 1 Pokemon game, this one remains my favorite because Giratina is aces and Team Galactic is so over-the-top diabolical. From Kyle Gorman, Team Galactic really doesn't get enough credit. From Basque99, the final fight with Cynthia gave me PTSD. All right. Yeah, that's all I got. But yeah, you join our Discord. You can chat with us and you can put questions in there when I bother to post it. If more people comment, I will. So, and before we go on to Shelf Stacker Box, I want to give away another Steam code. Let me see what I have. Here you go. Here is The Walking Dead 400 Days for the DLC. So someone had it, didn't have the DLC. Here you go. Have a Steam code. It's R8DW4ELHV7VNQ7Q. That is the Steam code for Walking Dead 400 Days. So if you're the guy that claimed the season 1 last time, there you go. Have another one. All right. And we'll go to Shelf Stacker Box. I'm going to go first. I'm going to put this in the stack. I had a decent time. I'm glad it's finally played, finally off my list that I can say, okay, I played through Gen 4. And it was, I put 40 hours in, it was nice. It wasn't bad. I won't probably ever go back to it, but that's not that unusual. So go in the stack, but I'm glad to finally experience Pokemon Platinum. And what about you, Kyle?
Well, I'm going to have to say this will go on the stack. I'm happy that I got to replay this and talk about it for a podcast. I really dug this game. But no, I'm going to change my answer. This will be on the shelf. I'm proud of this game, and I had a fun time with it, again, especially just for some early adulthood memories of being a 19-year-old and just, I had gone through a couple years of horrible, crushing depression, suicide attempts. So, yeah. That was fun, I guess.
That's part of adulthood, unfortunately.
Yeah. Hooray, woo. But no, that and Pokemon Platinum really helped me out at that period of time. And it reminded me of my love of Pokemon and why I've always loved Pokemon, the cuteness of Pokemon, the wide world appeal, just collecting Pokemon, all that stuff. Just it reminded me of all the things of why I love Pokemon so much. No, this goes on my shelf. I'd be proud to display this and pick it up again every so often, maybe, and just really fall in love again.
All right. And Kendall, I say the most positive for last.
Okay. So if you remember in at least one of the previous episodes, I created a new category, which is console.
Oh, I vaguely remember this, yes. In
which case, basically, because literally every handheld console that I've ever had has a game that just hangs out in there forever. So when I say shelf, know that is an extreme downgrade because the DS would have a different version of Pokemon in it. Probably is black and white is DS, right?
Yes, it's also DS.
So black and white, or possibly Black and White 2. One of those would be my console game, the game that lives in the console. So Platinum is downgraded to the very terrible spot on the shelf. But there's never going to be a Pokemon game that would not go on the shelf for me.
Okay.
If I have games on display, Pokemon games are going to be on display before almost any other game. So like I said, it's a curve. I've been critical in this episode, but that comes from a place of love. Like, I love HMs, and there's lots of HMs in this game. I love running around with the Pokemon. I love Fly. I love Strength. I love Water Gun. I love, fire stuff. Like I said, it's like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 when almost every Pokemon game is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay. That's completely fair. All right, and I should introduce what we're going to talk about next week. Next week, you can hear us talk about Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. So stay tuned for that next week. And Kendall, where can people find you at?
So you can find a lot of stuff that I do at kendallcast.ninja. I've got a podcast, Beyond Bulbasaur, where I talk about a different Pokemon on every episode. And I have other podcasts, the Kendallcast Movie Roundtable, where we talk about movies, and a bunch of stuff for Star Wars cards. We get mad at each other.
Yeah, but they get mad at Kendall a lot. It's great.
But we get mad at Jeff, too. And then if you guys are fans of video games, I've heard that people like video games on this podcast. I have been doing more on my YouTube channel, which is the Kendallcast Network. I've been doing streams of or not. I don't know what they're. I guess they're Let's Plays. I'm so behind on the whole video game streaming thing. But basically, I record videos of me playing a game and then I do commentary over them.
That's
and it's yeah. So I got Let's Plays of Dark Souls 2 and Cuphead that I'm posting a bunch of. I also have a super cut of all the bosses from Lies of P, which is a great game. Go play Lies of P. It's a 10 out of 10. It goes on the shelf.
Sorry, what are video games?
Things that are gonna rot our brain. At one time, that's what people believed. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, they have, because people can't wait 4 seconds for the power for the fireball to hit.
And Kyle, where can people find you at?
Entitlement.
Sorry. Anyways, yeah. Okay, well, you can find me on a couple of different spots on the internet. You can find me on Blue Sky at chibiufo.bluesky.social. Once again, that's at chibiufo.bsky.social. You can find me on Instagram, where I post just random pictures of and all sorts of crap of my life on Instagram at chibiufo, once again. And you can find my podcast, the Unidentified Flying Obsession Podcast, or the UFO Podcast. You can find it on all sorts of different podcast feeds all over the internet. If you have a podcast catcher or some type of podcast service, and if you use that, make sure to look up the UFO Podcast or the Unidentified Flying Obsession Podcast. I have actually, funny enough that we're recording this at this specific date and time, I had actually just finished recording and published my 4th episode of my podcast the same day. So earlier today, I was just like, I'm feeling a little down and I'm a little bored. So, fuck it. Let's record a freaking podcast. I can knock this out in a little bit. Plus, I decided to shake up the format of my show, and I decided, I'm gonna fly solo for this one. I'm just gonna do a quick little thing. I wanted to play some. You know what? I'll share just for all you folks out there. I'll give you a little spoiler for my new episode. It's about video game music. So on this episode, I share my love of video game music, and I play a couple of my favorite little ditties from various video game consoles. So I hope you all enjoy. And yeah, that's me.
All right. And if you will see links to these two gentlemen's work in the show notes, definitely go check them out and follow them for their podcast. And if you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon. If a little dollar you can vote in our Patreon poll, you will see a link in the show notes to that. We have polls every month. You get to affect the show. Please rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. It helps out great. I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Fear. You can follow her on Twitch, TikTok, and Instagram. So definitely go support her too. She made our great music. And want to shout out to Bill Tucker with A Gamer Looks at 40. Definitely go check him out, especially if you're a Final Fantasy fan. He's going through all of that right now. He'll be doing that for months. So definitely go check out his podcast. He's been on the show quite often. Check out Nomads of Fantasy, another great show I work with. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube audio only. We are at all those things. And please, and like I said, rate and review us wherever you get us. That helps out a lot. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Take care.